everybody. Happy Monday, writers. I am Jade Trueblood, and I am rejoined by master copywriter and content writer and creator and all the great things, Nick Usborne. Hello, Nick Usborne.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Right, Monday morning.
Monday morning. Last week, if you missed it, we leaned in to change, and we talked a little bit about longevity of Nick's career and what he's found have been the keys to success of the longevity in his career. And so we talked about change. And Nick, you brought up something last week, and that was being curious. So can you just talk about how that's played into your success and advice for people of how to garner that?
Yeah, no, you raise an interesting point, because in fact, leaning into change and curiosity, there's a relationship there. There's an overlap there, because you tend to lean into change if you are curious. Mm-hmm. So I'm endlessly curious. I'm constantly curious, and in everything. Like I'll go for a walk with my wife, and we'll be out in the woods with the dog, and I'll be stopping and I'll be looking at, I don't know, a tree, a mushroom, a bird, and I'm just curious about the world around me. She says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I say, "Hey, look at this. That's interesting. I have no idea what that is, but I'm just curious." I'll do the same thing walking down the street, or I'll talk to people. I'll ask people, "But so what do you do? So how does that work?" I'm just curious about the world around me. So, which I know for myself, and again, I can't say this is true of everyone, but for myself, it makes life more interesting and more exciting. Mm-hmm. All right. So curiosity as a copywriter, I think curiosity in terms of my writing itself makes me a better writer. Because if I start writing something, if I just take the brief from a client and I write to that, I'm going to write pretty well. It'll be fine. But it'll just be fine. All right. If I'm curious, if I think, that's interesting. I don't sell this product, but my client does. And I might even ring up the client and say, "Hey, you talk about XYZ. How does that work? Like, I'd love to know how that actually works." Now, when I do that, and I don't do it as a habit, but I do know when I do it, the client lights up. They love it when you're curious about their business or their product or their service. So they're delighted to say, "Oh, right, let me tell you about that." And they start, and so I'm going to pick up something new from that, and I'm going to bring that into my copy. So that curiosity makes me, it's kind of an additive thing. It means that I'm finding something different. I'm finding something new because I'm curious, because I'm poking. And it may not always be a call to the client. Maybe I do a little extra research on Google or with ChatGPT because I'm kind of interested. I'm curious about this thing that I'm creating or writing for the client. Or it may be a project of my own. I've created entire websites, like hobby websites about coffee and about mushrooms, because I'm curious about these things. Mm-hmm. All right, I'm probably curious about too many things. It's probably a very inefficient use of my attention and time. But what it does is it keeps me refreshed. It keeps my relationships with my clients refreshed because they adore it. Like, I was talking to a friend of mine who he has a business. I guess it'd still be a small business, but he has probably got about 50, 60 employees. And he uses freelance writers, and we were chatting, and he was talking about this last summer, he had a family barbecue at the weekend, and this freelancer called him on his smartphone while he was with family at the weekend. And I said, "Well, didn't you find that irritating when a freelancer interrupts your family time?" He said, "No, I loved it, because this guy is so just relentlessly interested and curious about my business. Yeah. And I really, really value that in any kind of partnership where I'm working with someone." So to be curious is, I think certainly for myself, it feeds my own interest and energy. I'll get out in the morning with more of a bounce in my step, because I'm curious about the day ahead. I'm curious about the client project. I'm curious about a new technology coming along. I'm curious about what's happening with AI, or I'm curious about what's happening with whatever. So I'm never just like that in that passive state. So I think curiosity drives energy. There's a kind of positivity there. All right. Yeah. There's a positivity there. There's an energy. Yeah. It's kind of leaning forward. It's, you're never just sitting around and kind of waiting for the world to happen around you, because you're curious about it. You're looking around.
I love that too, because I think so many people go into something thinking that they should know it all, and then worrying when they don't know it all. where if you just go into it with the attitude and telling yourself, it's not that I don't know, I'm just going to go into with curiosity, and you can ask the questions and then find out and gain that knowledge, right? Or gain that excitement through your curiosity and through your questions. I think it's a way to reposition when you don't know anything about a niche or a specialty or a client or an opportunity that might present itself to you, you know?
Right. Hey, and it's like, it's also like a kind of lifelong learning thing.
Yes.
I mean, I'm perhaps best known now as the creator of courses for copywriters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking a course myself right now. I signed up for
Mm-hmm.
it about 10 days ago. I'm going through it, spending about half an hour, 45 minutes a day, because it's an area where I feel that I would like to learn more. I'd like to know more. So it's not like I took courses. In fact, when I started out as a copywriter, there were no courses, but it's not like I took courses just to learn the fundamentals and then that's it. My career goes flying away in front of me. It's like I'm always trying to learn more. And yeah, I paid for this course and I'm taking the course and I'll get my little certification at the end. And so I'm the same as everyone else, right? And again, I wouldn't be taking that course if I wasn't curious about some stuff that I didn't know, that I don't, consider myself an expert or sufficiently expert in that area.
Yeah.
So it's the curiosity that keeps me learning.
I also think it plays into something that we talked about last week and we touched on, and also another reason why you have been so successful, because I would believe that the curiosity has led you to found that next change, right? Like when you were a direct response on paper copywriter, you were curious about, this thing called the web. And if you weren't, you wouldn't have found it. And so I'm sure to help you find the next iterations of your career and the things that you're going to take on next, even though you don't know what they are.
Right. So yeah, it is. Curiosity it pulls you forward or drives you forward. Hey, when I published my first website in 1995, I had an ISP, as we all do, like for the servers and stuff. My ISP was my next door neighbor who had a rack of dial-up modems in his basement. It was nuts. So I couldn't help it. I was like, "What is this, man? What have you got down here?" It's just curiosity. How does this work? And so he showed, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to build a website." And I said, "I have no idea." And there were no tools. There was no WordPress. It was just raw code back then. I couldn't do it, and I found a friend who was interested, and we just tinkering around. And it's curiosity. And I think that is good for yourself. But like I say, it makes you write better copy because you're never just satisfied with just the basic brief or the basic conversation. You want to find out more. You're curious about it. And it can lead to very, very positive relationships with your clients because they love it when you care enough about their business to express curiosity, to ask them questions beyond the brief, and to be excited to learn about it. I mean, truly, they love that. And I understand it. I get it. I'd love it too.
A very practical type of question. So what do you read or listen to, or who do you follow that helps like feed your knowledge as well and like cure your curiosity almost? Is there anything in particular that you read daily, look at, follow, whatever it might be?
I use a service called Feedly.
Okay.
And it's a little bit like you can do the Google Alerts thing as well. It's where you put in the topic of what's interesting you, and Feedly goes out, and it has an AI component as well now. And I've probably got about 5 or 6 topics of interest, of curiosity that I have there, and I can go there each day, and it'll pick out the most interesting media, what's been published in the last 24 hours or last 5 days relating to my topic of interest. So I can add filters and stuff. So I'm getting just the information that I want. So my curiosity tends to be around the edges. I don't learn. I don't seek out like how to be a copywriter.
Yeah.
I'm going around the edges. So things like AI, when it came across, I was like, hey, I was like a kind of bee to honey. It was like nuts. It's like, oh my goodness, this is, for your curious person, the rise of AI was an exciting time. It still is. So yeah, on my Feedly channels, I have a couple of devoted to, artificial intelligence. And then I also listen to, each day at the end of the day, I do, depending on the weather, I'll go walking or cycling, or I've got an indoor rowing machine. So whenever I do my exercise, I listen to podcasts. So I'll find, podcasters who are talking about my area of interest. And some of them are daily podcasts. They're kind of up to the minute and really smart people, really interesting topics. So yeah, I'm constantly, every day I'm getting this inflow of new information on my areas of interest.
Are you going to tell us your favorite podcast, or do you have a favorite one? I'm putting you on the spot.
I'm trying. It's the one I'm listening to at the moment it's called the AI. I can't remember the name. We'll try and
we'll follow it up. Do you know who the people are that talk on it, or is it different guests every time?
It's one guy, and I can't even remember his name. That's the trouble. It's like trying to remember people's phone numbers these days. You don't, because you just click a button. And it's the same with the podcast. I just click play, so I don't even read the name or the name of the. Yeah.
I like that, because I feel like sometimes it's like, I don't have time for this, right? I can't do this. So now if you incorporate something like listening to a podcast in your area of interest, and it's a way to feed that, and it's a way to garner knowledge constantly. It's that whole adage of getting smarter every day, right? So you're learning new and getting smarter every day. And yeah, I love that quick hit.
I'd say 7 days a week I am learning something new. Through reading or listening. I'm never just sitting here. So I'm either doing the work or I'm learning to do the work.
So would that be your one takeaway for people today? Like, curiosity starts with adding daily adages of knowledge or daily intake of something new, something you don't know?
I guess. And I'm not sure whether curiosity is whether some people are born more curious than others, or whether you can train yourself into, if you can. There's amazing rewards, because it's just fun. I just find it fun to stumble across and discover new stuff and new people I could listen to. And like the way the podcast have gone is I'll start off. I think probably I started off with someone like Tim Ferriss, who has these wonderful people he interviews, and I think, oh, that's interesting. And then that person has a podcast, so I start listening to that person's, and so it begins to ripple out. And in fact, I'm listening to a Tim Ferriss podcast at the moment. It's like a long one, so it's more than one exercise session. But yeah, there are 3 podcasts that I will regularly listen to in slightly different but overlapping areas.
Yeah, I think it is something that some people innately have, but I also do think it's something that you can be like almost turn on with knowledge that you need to be that way, if that makes sense. Like, I've heard from Nick to be curious. I'm now going to be open to that. I'm going to start listening to things in a different way, right?
I think it is definitely something that let's not call it like a genetic thing. Let's say it's a habit thing.
Yeah, I think so. From passive to active.
You can form a habit of, go for 30 days, do something to feed curiosity, listen to something new, see something new, stop on you're walking down a city street and you think, I've never seen that building before. I don't really, and just stop and look at it. Like be curious about the world around you. Everything. What are your kids doing? What are your pets? Why does my dog do that? It's just like to be the curious mindset. And yeah, if you go 30, create a habit out of it. But yeah, find some podcasts. Go to a place like Feedly or Google Alerts and say, hey, here's an area of interest. I want the best, most interesting stuff on this topic, and I'll check it out each day.
What about, even now we're really going almost down a rabbit hole, but like to bring this back to like the aspiring copywriter who maybe doesn't have any clients, right? And to bring it back to them, and instead of the reach out to somebody being, hey, do you need a copywriter? I want to work for you. Maybe it's you are curious about something about their business that you can ask a question about. And I feel like that way is such an easy way into a conversation with somebody versus presenting yourself with, hey, like, I'm ready to work for you.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, definitely you can lead that as a kind of client acquisition strategy, but also, I've lost it. I was about to say
enhancing your life.
It just went popped out of my head. What was I going to say? Can't remember.
I'm sure it was brilliant.
I'm sure it was the best thing I was going to say all day. Yeah.
No, I really like that idea of, you can do it in both ways. Obviously, maybe you start the muscle by, like how you said, just being curious about your surroundings, and then I think test it with the waters with like a dream clients. And
oh wait, curiosity, that was what I was going to say. I have hang on,
This is live. We are live with Nick founding the book.
I still look at this book. All right.
Wow.
This is the Copywriter's Bible, and it's basically these are the great copywriters from when I started, from the 70s and the 80s, 70s and 80s. When I was starting out, and I still refer to this book, I am curious about how the best writers wrote. All right, I will go back to these guys, and like I say, most of them passed away now. They were at the top of their game in the kind of 1970s and maybe early 80s, and they were amazing. They were, to me, when I was starting out, I would just immerse myself in their writing all the time. I was so curious as to what it was that made their writing so good. So yeah, that's another thing. Another area you can aim curiosity at is the work of others, your peers, the best of your peers. Be curious about what is it about their writing that makes it so good?
So good, yes. What makes that so good? I love that. What a great note to end on. Okay, so next week we're kind of taking a negative turn, but it's going to end up positive, I'm sure. But we'll talk about some mistakes that you've made, because I'm sure. Me? Perfect me? What? Never. They had to be dabbled in there, sprinkled in there in the long career we talked about. So I look forward to hearing about that. And we shall see everybody then. Thank you, Nick Usborne.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Bye.